Okay, now we can talk. All right. So again, disclaimer, Dr. Saunders is not your doctor. Please consult with your healthcare provider before you implement any of the things we talk about today. But share with us, what is metabolic syndrome?
Okay. A long time ago, well, I don't know, 25 years ago, people started noticing that certain symptoms go together. So generally in medical school, since before the time of testing, when they didn't really have good tests for everything, everything was treated based on symptoms. So people would have a symptom of pain in your eye, and pain in your ear, and then you look at that, and so you look at where the pain is, and then try and relieve the pain, whatever that takes to relieve the pain. If someone's blood pressure was high, you gave them a pill for blood pressure. If they had high blood sugar, then you would deal with the blood sugar. And so everything was very specific to a symptom. And then somebody noticed that, like, you know what? There's like a lot of these symptoms kind of go together, and the metabolism. So the sugar metabolism is off, and the fat metabolism is off, and they gain weight, and they tend to gain weight around the middle, like the midsection, like in their abdomen, is gaining weight, but not the rest of their body, and the blood pressure is going high. And so you have this collection of symptoms that they started calling a metabolic syndrome. The word syndrome just means collection of symptoms. So somebody noticed that they go together. So then you could call it metabolic syndrome. And that is, you have visceral obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol or lipid uh, issues, hyperlipidemia, and then I already said blood sugar. Um, so those symptoms go together, and that's metabolic syndrome. Um, okay, that was the answer to your question, right?
Yes. No, that's good. Feel free to ask questions about this, guys, as we talk through some of this and dig into what we can do about this.
Yeah, Randy said they used to just call it a spare tire. Um, but yeah, that's part of it, but actually that's not enough. You also have to have high blood pressure and the lipid problems and the sugar problems. So it's not just one thing, it's the syndrome, it's the collection. And everybody's a little bit different. So some people will tend to get like a big belly, but their blood sugar's fine and their fat's fine and their blood pressure's fine. Other people, they have their blood pressure go up and everything else seems to be okay. So um, putting them together, what is it? And ultimately, it comes down to a really simple thing, and that is insulin resistance. Insulin is the hormone that causes you to put fat on around the belly. There's no other hormone that does that. There's nothing else that does that. You have no other options. That's it. So, what else happens when your insulin goes up? Well, you're insulin resistant, and your blood sugar tends to go up. And so you have high insulin and high blood sugar. That's insulin resistance, right? So then your insulin goes up more and your blood sugar is generally high. And then because a lot of your tissues are not getting good energy because the high insulin blocks you from using fat for energy, your blood pressure goes up. So the blood pressure is high because the insulin's high, the blood sugar's high, making the insulin high, and then you put weight around the middle, and so all of it is based on this hyperinsulinemia or too much insulin. So the insulin, it's just a hormone, and it's perfectly normal. I just wrote an article. I was gonna share it with um, um, uh, uh, for home cures at work. I haven't given it to Cheryl yet, but for home cures at work, I'm writing an article about how uh, in the wild it's perfectly normal for animals to get this metabolic syndrome. So every single day, hummingbirds go around and they suck nectar out of flowers. Do you know what nectar is? Sucrose. Just sugar. That's all it is. They're sucking pure sucrose. It's like they live on what was it? Elf. uh, what were the four food groups for Elf? It was sugar,
Candy,
candy,
candy
syrup,
canes,
and candy canes.
and syrup.
And syrup. Okay, so the syrup is pure sucrose, and that's essentially what a hummingbird is living on. And so every single day, by the end of the day, the hummingbird has insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, um, fatty liver disease, and visceral obesity, right? In one day. And so what happens then is overnight, the hummingbird has like an 18-hour fast overnight, and during that period of time uses up all that fat and gets a normal metabolism, and then starts all over again and gets metabolic syndrome by the end of the day again, just because that's all it eats is sugar. And if you look at like a bear, so a bear is eating, meat and fish and all this stuff, and then the berries come ripe, and it leaves all the meat and fish and everything, and can eat 100,000 berries a day. And all those berries, it's like pure sugar, right? There's no fat in there. It's sugar. And so what happens is the bear gets visceral obesity, hypertension, fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, essentially, and can gain 150 pounds in one summer. 150 pounds of fat in
I
one
think I could
summer.
do that. I could do that.
Yeah, challenge accepted.
I would like to try if I knew I wouldn't die.
So then,
Why haven't they come out with that challenge for us? Darn it.
I know, right? Eat 100,000 berries a day. So they're eating natural foods, right? It's totally natural. I have a lot of people come into my office and say, but I eat totally natural foods. What the heck? Even if it's natural, it doesn't matter. If you're eating glucose regularly, your insulin's going up, you're going to get this metabolic syndrome. And so the bear has to fast for 6 months to get rid of all that fat, and to get the liver properly working again, and to get the metabolism normal again. And everything comes back to normal in 6 months of fasting. So are you ready for that, Leslie?
Yep.
If you're taking the challenge, you got to do it both ways.
Yep. That's what I was actually just going to ask you about because I know that fasting is one of your recommendations for reversing this metabolic syndrome. What kind of fasting are you talking about here? What do we need to do?
Well, in nature, they do continuous fasting. So they do long-term fasting. So a squirrel will fast for, 4 months, 5 months. A bear fasts for 6 months. Dolphins fast for usually weeks, days to weeks. Whales go up into the northern climates, and they eat tons of krill and fish, and literally tons. And they gain tons of weight, literally, and then they swim down into warm waters where there's no krill or small fish to eat, and they live off their fat for like 6 months and raise their young, and they're fasting the whole time. The moms are feeding their babies because they're mammals, right? So the babies feed on the moms, the mother's milk. Moms are producing milk the whole time they're fasting. They don't eat anything. So the way nature does it is a long-term fast. So you can fast like a hummingbird and do intermittent fasting and fast overnight. And we usually recommend the 6-10 reset. You stop eating by 6. And I've had a lot of people tell me that works well. They start losing weight, they start burning fat, and they start feeling a lot better. The energy comes back, which is an interesting thing that I was doing research for this article. Bears, when they build up fat, they're storing fat. They're not using it for energy, and so their energy levels drop. And as they're building more, they get less and less energy until they're so fatigued and tired. Have you ever felt that way? Like, I'm so fatigued and tired, like all the time, and I'm gaining weight like crazy. That's insulin resistance. That's metabolic syndrome. And what the bear does is, because he's so lethargic, he goes in and sleeps for 6 months and fasts for 6 months. So that's something to consider. Why am I fatigued all the time? It's because I don't have enough energy, because normally you need 60% of your energy to come from fat. But insulin blocks that and says, nope, don't use fat for energy. So now you only have 40% of your normal energy, and you're feeling tired and lethargic, and I can't do anything. The bear does exactly the same thing. So he goes in and sleeps. That's like, isn't that cool? I mean, I think that's so cool that like all these things that people are complaining about, it's exactly the same in nature. That's like everywhere you go, it's all the same. We're just like normal, right? It's not this isn't a weird thing. This is like normal. So then you can fast like a hummingbird, and some people that they do that really well. That's called intermittent fasting. You can fast like a dolphin and do a short-term fast, like a few days. 3 days once a month is a really good way of doing it. I think that's optimal. I actually do all of them together. uh, I don't eat after 6. So I have this deal with my daughter. So my daughter is in college, and she gains weight really easily. She has just the metabolism. And so she says, okay, I don't want to eat after 6. So I want to make a deal with you. I want to, if I eat after 6, I'll pay you $20. If you eat after 6, you pay me $20. I'm like, on deal. So every time, like I went to my son's house, and we went out to dinner, and of course it's after 6 and I eat, right? So I just Venmo her $20. And then next thing I know, she's Venmoing me $20. Oh yeah, I went to a party right after. And it's just kind of going back and forth. But it makes me think about it all the time. Oh, eating. Oh, what time is it? Oh, it's after 6. Forget it. I'm not going to do it. It's a really great way to help someone else, and to keep it in mind all the time, so you don't forget. Oh, I did it again. I forgot it's after 6, and so no eating after 6. And then once a week, Sundays, I fast. So I eat. I eat before 6 on Saturday, and then I eat again till Monday morning.
Mm.
And then once a month, the first weekend of the month. So I have it all planned out, right? That makes it easy. First weekend of the month, I do 3 days, because I think the 3-day fast once a month is like ideal, because that's where you get autophagy. That's what the bear does. The bears are cleaning out everything out of their body. It's called autophagy. It's eating yourself, taking out all the bad proteins, all the bad cells. You'll get eaten when you're up over 2 days. So usually you get into autophagy by about the second day. So if you do a 3-day fast, that's an ideal place to be.
Okay. Did he cut out a little bit, or was that my?
That was it. I'm done.
You cut
I don't
out a
know.
little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
did.
I think
Sorry,
we
what
got it. I think we got it,
what
though.
did you
Yeah.
miss?
No, I think we got it. This was really good. And Edgar says, I never eat after 6, which is
Good
awesome.
job, Edgar.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. There was a question that came in that
That's
said,
been the hardest thing for me, not eating after 6. I can fast for days, I can fast for weeks, but dang, not eating after 6 is hard.
What
That's
makes
why,
what
but
makes it hard? The social aspect
yeah,
or
the
the
social
time
aspect
crunch? Yeah.
and the time crunch. So, I'm done with work in the evening. I get home by 6 or 7, and I can't eat anything, and I'm hungry.
yeah. By the time you finally relax and you want to eat,
Yeah,
It's too
yeah,
late. Yeah.
I get
yeah.
that. Someone had asked, how would you know, if you were to go, say you were going to the doctor's office, how would they know that you have metabolic syndrome? Like, when would that be diagnosed?
Oh, okay. So it's just going by the collection of symptoms. Your blood pressure is high, and you have excess belly fat, and your triglycerides, cholesterol are high, and your blood sugar's elevated. So your hemoglobin A1C is like in the pre-diabetes range or something. It would be called metabolic syndrome because you have that collection of symptoms.
What
Okay.
about exercise? I assume exercise would be a good thing if you've got metabolic syndrome.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yes, thank you, Cheryl. That's like really important. You have this cell that's full of sugar and so they don't make insulin receptors anymore, so the sugar can't get into the cell because it's already full. You have to exercise to get rid of it. And a lot of people think like, "Oh, I'm fasting, I can't exercise." No way, dude. You gotta keep exercising while you're fasting so that you don't use your muscles for energy. So the exercise is an important part no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Now, I was going through home cares at work. You wrote an article about metabolic syndrome, so I posted it in the chat for everyone to read too. This was quite a few years ago. But one of the other writers talked about eating grapefruit when you have metabolic syndrome. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
I'll have to review what she says about it. Let me see if I
Hmm.
can find it.
Interesting. Hmm. Um, okay, I'm going to ask another question in here. I'm going to read through some of the questions that have come in from the Q&A. So some may be a little bit off topic, but that's okay. When a person has repeated blood transfusions because of anemia, why are doctors claiming that they cannot find the source of bleeding?
Oh, okay. There's a source, but it's not always easy to find. It can be internal bleeding, it could be bleeding in the gut. And, when you get blood into your intestines, then it could be just leaking a little bit of blood at a time. And so you don't see it in the stool. You don't get like red stool or black tarry stools like when people who have a ton of blood. If it's just a little leaking, then you may not see it. And that's kind of a common place to look because it can be hidden. Blood is so bright red, it's really easy to spot, right? So, except unless it's in the stool where it's like mixed in and brown and it all just mixes together, now you can't see the blood in the stool. So that's a kind of a common place, but it's not the only place. You could bleed internally, which means into your body, into a body cavity, and then your body's reabsorbing it and whatever, um, and still have anemia. Or you could have a problem with the bone marrow not making red blood cells. So you check the kidneys make something called erythropoietin, and so that's a test that can be done. And if you're lacking erythropoietin, then you have a hormone problem, and the reason for the anemia is not because you're losing blood, it's because you're just not making it.
Yeah.
All right, I found this thing about grapefruit. Grapefruit contains a specific antioxidant called naringenin, which aids the liver in breaking down fats. In turn, the liver can produce LDL cholesterol, reducing the chance of atherosclerosis, and it helps fat metabolism. So that's
Oh,
something to
that's
help the fatty
interesting.
liver. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
I saw somebody commented, and this is the thing I always think of with grapefruit. By the way, I love grapefruit.
Mhm.
But it is something I hear a lot as far as do not take this with certain medications. I do hear that. What is the issue there, Dr. Saunders? What does grapefruit
Statins.
do?
Grapefruit has substances in it that bind to what are called cytochrome P450 enzymes. And these are enzymes in the liver that detox certain things. And so it just so happens that there's several medications that are your body won't break down properly if you're eating grapefruit. Grapefruit will block the enzymes that break down these drugs, and then the drugs will start getting high levels in the blood because they can't be broken down from eating grapefruit. So, statins are one that's a common one, and there are some blood pressure medications too. So that's why they say don't eat grapefruit with it.
Okay. All right. Another question here. David says I'm 82, and sometimes right after I get up, my arrhythmia app shows abnormal. But if I exercise, it goes away and shows normal. Is this a normal reaction?
Well, No, not likely. If it says your rhythm is abnormal, then find out what that abnormal rhythm is. And if it's intermittent, like it goes away, then you can't just necessarily walk into a doctor's office or a hospital and get an EKG and find out what it is, because the EKG could be normal and you go, "Oh, you're normal." Well, you're normal now, but in the morning when you woke up, you weren't normal. So it often requires a ZO patch or some kind of monitor device that you wear for a period of time, a week to a month, to find out what that rhythm is. So if it's supraventricular tachycardia and it's just tachycardia because you're dehydrated, that's very different from like atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular rhythm. So the patch or the Holter monitor can tell you over a long period of time how often that happens and when it happens and specifically what kind of rhythm it is.
Okay. Allison said, I have a question about potassium. My level is 5.6, and my doctor wants to put me on the water pill. Is that too high? And what do I need to do to get it down? I eat mostly fruits and veggies, but I don't eat bananas or potatoes. Any suggestions?
Yes. Don't just take a medication. Find out why it's high. High potassium is not normal and it's not good for you. And the potassium difference in potassium is what keeps everything going. It's what keeps your muscles contracting, keeps your heart going. These are important things. If your potassium gets really high, it could just stop working or spasm. And if your heart spasms, that's a bad thing, right? So don't just brush this off. This is really important to find out why. So if you were to take something like Lasix, yeah, that's something that causes you to excrete extra potassium, but it's not a dietary thing. If you're not in renal failure, then why is the potassium high? When their kidneys are failing, potassium will go up, but there's other reasons too. There's hormonal reasons. So aldosterone. Most doctors don't check for aldosterone problems, pituitary problems. Um, so those kinds of things that cause high potassium need to be checked. So before you start any medication, it's not a dietary problem. Check and find out why. There's an interesting thing. Just so that you know, I don't know if this is your issue or it could be. Epstein-Barr virus uh, causes the potassium to leak out of your cells, and your cells are high potassium and your blood is low potassium. And so if the cells are leaking potassium, then your blood potassium can go up. And usually the kidneys will just get rid of that extra potassium. But you may feel really fatigued and weak, and like you're running on low voltage, because literally you are running on low voltage, if that's the case. And that would be an Epstein-Barr virus infection. So, besides the hormones, look for infectious diseases too that might cause this.
Okay. This is interesting. So Anonymous is asking, what is lymphedema? What causes it and how do you get rid of it? But then I'm going to also add, what is lipodemia?
Okay. So lipidemia is when there is a lot of fat in the blood. So one time I had somebody come in, and this is back when we used to draw blood for the lab. That people would come into our office and we would draw the blood and spin it down and send it to the lab. And the lab would come and pick it up every night. And so one time we drew somebody's blood, and it sits there, and while it sat there, the fats float to the top, and this vial of blood was half fat and half blood. There was like a lot of lipidemia. This guy, literally half of his blood volume was fat. That's lipidemia.
Okay.
Lymphedema is entirely different and unrelated.
Okay.
So the lymph system is what gets the water from the tissues back into the blood, and gets it circulating again. So it's an entirely different system of blood vessels. And so, we think of the circulatory system as arteries and veins, but there's an entirely separate vessel system that's the lymph system. And so lymphedema is where that lymph system doesn't work. Those blood vessels aren't working. And it's often because of clogging. There used to be something called, well, it used to be, it's still around, but we deal with it better now. Elephantiasis was, people would get, their legs would just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they wouldn't stop getting bigger. There was like no end to that until they couldn't walk anymore. They just had tree trunks for legs. And that was all lymphedema, and they couldn't do anything about it. You can't like raise your leg and have it drain because there's no draining. The draining system is not working, the lymph system. And it's usually because a parasite would get into the lymph system, like up where the abdomen meets. There would be, and they would collect in there. These parasites would collect in there and clog up the vessels, so that they wouldn't work, and so that you would just collect fluid and collect fluid. The lymph edema. So that your other question is, okay, that's what it is. Its lymph system is working. So how do you make it start working? It's a really interesting system. It's amazing. It's just like, this is a miracle. The way it works is it has valves. And the valves allow the fluid to only go one way. So it goes one way. And then it has muscles like all of your other vessels do too. It has muscles. And so these muscles are like squeezing the fluid up, and the valves are keeping it in. And then that's how things move. That's how it moves through. One of the things, there's something called lymphatic massage. That is to help those valves move things through. And it's kind of funny because it's a light touch massage. But if you have real lymphedema, if you had the mild lymphedema, like that comes from low thyroid, that works really well. But if you have like an elephantiasis or something like that, that's not going to work. You have to get that fluid back into the vascular system. So they actually make boots now that squeeze and let go, and squeeze and let go, and squeeze and let go. And as they squeeze, they're pushing the fluid into the venous systems, because the lymph system isn't working. So they push it into the venous system. And some of them have rollers, massage rollers. They roll up the leg to push the fluid from down below up. And as it's pushing it up, it's going into the venous system. And there's various types of that kind of thing that to get rid of lymphedema, because you can't just raise your legs and make that go away. You really need some mechanical way to get that out.
Isn't there dry brushing? So dry
Yeah.
brushing helps your lymph moves, and as long as you're brushing towards your heart, then
Yeah. So that's the lymphatic massage, is a dry brush. It sounds kind of funny because it's just a light stimulation, and it's not like those rollers that are compressing your legs and pushing fluid out. It's just a light touch. So how could that work? Well, the idea is to stimulate those lymph vessels to start moving things through, and there's good evidence that works.
Right. Richard said, can leucine powder raise albumin creatinine ratio?
Albumin creatinine ratio. Okay, so the albumin creatinine ratio is in the albumin. Could leucine powder? Leucine is a branched chain amino acid that's often used for, well, it stimulates testosterone. It's also used for energy in the muscles. The muscles use these branched chain amino acids for energy. So if you were to buy BCAA, that would increase. I don't think it increases albumin though, and so that's the thought. Can you increase albumin, because the albumin creatinine ratio is a urinary it's a urinary measurement, like someone that has diabetes. If you want to know that if your kidneys are excreting protein, then you do this albumin creatinine ratio. How much albumin are you losing in the urine? And how do you know, in the urine, how much that is it diluted or not? And that's the creatinine. So depending on how much creatinine you're losing. So would leucine do that? Well, I don't know of any specific research, but I couldn't think of why it should. I don't think so.
Okay. Michelle said, what is your opinion of injectable cells from the umbilical cord of a baby born by C-section?
Okay, so those cells, they're supposed to be progenitor cells like stem cells. That's the idea of getting the cord cells or placental cells or whatever. And those are they're not from your body, so they can be rejected by your body pretty easily. And so the idea that you're going to fix something by injecting these cells, progenitor cells, into your blood, I just haven't seen it work. I know people have reported on it. I've seen research on it, and it looks good, but I haven't seen benefits or results in the patients that I've had try that, and using cord blood. So I don't know. I think your best bet is probably to use autologous, though, where they take it from your own fat and they spin it down and they remove the stem cells out of that, and then they activate them and inject them into whatever the tissue is. And it's really interesting to see the research that's done versus what actually works out in the field. It is like way different on these stem cells. But they were saying, well, stem cells are going to repair everything. They're going to fix everything, and we won't have to have any joint replacements anymore. We're going to do away with most of medicine because of stem cells. Well, guess what? That hasn't happened yet. And I haven't seen the cord blood cells actually be any better.
Arvin said, my A1C was 6.9 and my doctor is not happy.
Nope, I wouldn't be happy either. And don't you be happy with that. Who cares if your doctor's not happy? But you better not be happy with that. Yeah, get it down to 5.0. Go on phase 1, get the diabetes solution kit, start phase 1, and then when you get your hemoglobin A1C to about 5.0 to 5.2, somewhere in there, then you can start on phase 2.
All right. Sib said, who may be susceptible to metabolic syndrome?
Okay, so anybody who has potential for insulin resistance. Now, that's really interesting because not everybody does. Some people live on sugar and fat, and my stepmom is from Denmark, and she says, that's what we ate. We had sugar and fat and everything, and everything was like with cream and butter and all the Danish pastries and all that stuff. What is it? Butter and sugar and a little bit of flour in there somewhere. And it's interesting that she doesn't have metabolic syndrome. She doesn't have any issues. She's like 87 years old and doing great. So some people just seem to tolerate it well, whereas you have other people, for example, the Pima Indian tribe in Arizona that has like an 80% diabetes rate. Like 8 out of 10 of them have diabetes, and it's like that's pretty darn high. So yeah, there is a lot of genetic factors that are involved. But you can mitigate that with diet. So if you don't eat sugar, you don't drink sodas, you don't have artificial sweeteners, and you don't live on sweets and glucose and all that stuff, then you're much less likely to get it.
Okay. Next question here. Kevin said, after my triple heart bypass on April of last year, my cardiologist has placed me on 81 milligrams of aspirin and 80 milligrams of atorvastatin. I always say that wrong.
No,
Uh,
that was right.
okay, I'm getting better. Saying this is needed for the rest of my life, as I have eliminated all of my diabetes medication. I want to know, based upon my cholesterol reading, should I ask to eliminate atorvastatin or reduce the dosage to 40 or 20 milligrams?
Okay. Um, let's put it this way. The standard of care, that doesn't mean it's the best care, it's just the standard. It's just what everybody does. Your doctor has to do what everybody else does. And the drug companies tell them that they must prescribe a statin for everyone who has diabetes, everyone who has heart disease, everyone who's had a bypass surgery, no matter what their cholesterol is. So you don't have an argument. There's no argument there. There's nothing there. So just keep in mind, it's your body. You make the decision. What do you want to do? And then you weigh the risks versus the benefits, and then you say, and the doctor can prescribe it, but I don't have to actually take it. Or you could say, I think it's worth it, and I'm going to take it. So that's your option.
All right, Anonymous said, I had ankle edema up to my knees and was advised to give up sweet products, minimize carbs, including fruit and fruit juices, and to eat like an Atkins diet because a faulty diet leads to low potassium in the bloodstream. To achieve homeostasis, this has in turn caused potassium to shift from the muscles into the bloodstream through osmosis, causing sodium to shift into the displaced potassium space in the muscles, thus causing edema. I was advised to also take a 3-mix 100 GM 3-mix Dr. Gearson's potassium powder. This advice worked wonders for me without pressure stockings.
Okay. So yes, balancing your sodium potassium is very important. And there's several hormones that keep that in check. And so, yeah, keeping your potassium up, that's really important. And it is, you're right, it's hard to get enough potassium when you're not eating fruit and vegetables because that's where most of that potassium comes from. And there's another thing, magnesium. It might be important for you to take magnesium as well as a supplement. But yeah, good idea.
Kevin said, I've been fasting between 24 to 48 hours with no issues. Wonderful.
Good job, Kevin.
Someone else had asked, what about drinking water during a fast?
Yeah, water's generally okay. Okay, so the idea of the fast is to have an empty stomach. So people who have a gallon of water that they carry around with them and they're just drinking all day long, their stomach, yeah, the water empties out pretty quickly. But if they're drinking all day long, they're not getting all the benefits they could. So yeah, get enough water. If you're thirsty, drink a cup of water. Okay, fine. But to be drinking all day long doesn't negate the fast at all. But you don't get all the benefits of having an empty stomach because your stomach produces a hormone called ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, which is the growth hormone releasing hormone that repairs your body. And so if you keep putting stuff into your stomach, then you're not getting all the benefits of that repair while you're fasting. So yes, it's okay to drink water. So let's say, you're thirsty, you drink a cup of water. That's going to be in your stomach for, minutes. It's like maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes. It's not that long because your stomach empties according to calories and there's 0 calories. So it just goes through pretty much. But it does shut off the ghrelin in that short period of time. But it's okay if you just do it, a few times a day because you're thirsty.
There's another question about fasting. Well, I love Manja's question for you. It's what if I go salsa dancing after 6 and I have a glass of wine? I'm exercising.
It counts. It counts. You got to stop the wine. You can go salsa dancing all you want.
You can salsa dance after 6. We'll allow it. I love that. How fun. Okay. Can you still fast even if you take metformin, blood pressure pills, and insulin?
Ah, um, the answer to that question is yes, with a caveat to be really careful. If I were in that position, I would, before I fasted, I would have a continuous glucose monitor and just decrease the amount. And I might even do like get the diabetes solution kit, get phase 1 of the program, and start that. And so when my blood sugar goes down, then I don't need insulin anymore. And so stabilizing the blood sugar is a much better idea rather than just going into a fast with all these medications and then you drop too low, hypoglycemia, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Answered that one. What about glucose crashes on a fast?
Yeah, I get that. Glucose crashes, it happens. You know what? I don't get it anymore because I fast very regularly. When I first started fasting, it was a problem. I would get hangry. I would get dizziness. I had to lay down on the floor several times. I passed out in the middle of a conference giving a demonstration. It happens. It doesn't happen to me anymore because I'm used to it. So yes, when you first start, you're going to get glucose crashes. So what about that? Is that a good thing? Yes, it's a good thing. Because what that does is when your glucose crashes, then your body says, oh no, I better make some more insulin receptors. And that makes you more insulin sensitive and allows your brain to get more sugar into the brain. And that's been proven in studies, in rat studies. So yeah, hypoglycemia in the fasting sense is fine. Hypoglycemia in the I just injected insulin and my blood sugar is crashing down below 30. That's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Gary said,
Oh,
oh, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, stay on the topic of fasting. Lori asks, question on fasting on a 3-day fast, is black coffee okay and still achieve autophagy?
Yeah, there's a book called Fast Like a Girl, I think. I think that's the one. And she says, okay, there's a clean fast, and the clean fast is you can have water, black tea, black coffee, uh, but things that have flavor or sweetness are out of the question. So there's like specific things that you can eat. So they say that black coffee would be just fine. Um, I have a little bit of an issue with that, and that is the caffeine part of it. Caffeine does stimulate your adrenals. So you don't get all the benefits of the fast if you're drinking coffee. So I generally tell people just drink water when you're thirsty, or in some cases, broth, because the broth has electrolytes in it and will keep your blood volume up a little better so that you don't get dizziness from a lack of blood volume. You still get dizziness from the low blood sugar, but that's a different issue.
All right. Gary said some time ago you talked about ice cream being bad because it's sugar and fat. Same for cake frosting. Oh my gosh. Side note, have you seen that they do this here. We have like some cupcake shops and they'll sell the actual like containers of just the frosting and people will buy just those. And to me, there's nothing grosser in the world than frosting. I hate frosting so much. I know people love it, but I just had the visual of that. Almost made me ill. I know people love it. Okay.
I used to make a cream cheese frosting that you
That I
would
could do. I can do cream cheese. I can do cream cheese. Or even, I was talking to my kids about a Jello cake that used to be made where you mix Jello with the cake and then the frosting is just whipped cream. And I could do that, but
yeah.
oh, can't do regular. Okay. So Gary's wondering, how would non-fat yogurt compare? So sugar without fat. Well, there wouldn't be sugar in non-fat yogurt either, would there?
Well, if you're buying the little yogurt, the flavored yogurts, yeah, it's going
Yeah,
to have a lot of
that would.
sugar in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yogurt, if you're just eating plain non-fat yogurt, that means you're getting protein. And there's other nutrients in it and stuff too. But there's protein, and most of the sugar is gone because the bacteria that are fermenting the milk to make yogurt are using up the sugar to some extent, but there's still sugar in the yogurt. So it's it's still not fasting, right? It's still you're eating.
Hey, when do we eat in the morning? When's best to eat?
Well, when you get up in the morning, the cortisol peaks right around 8 a.m. That's a great time to eat because that's when everything turns on. Your liver turns on to process your food and to detox all the stuff that's going through there. And your fat is able to be used, and everything is just like peaked and ready to go at around 8 o'clock in the morning. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's tired, it's worn out, it's done. So stopping eating at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is a good idea. But starting around 8, 7, 8, whatever, that's a good time.
Denise says, why do the veins look blue with red blood in them?
Oh, good question. Because when the hemoglobin has no oxygen, then the blood looks blue. It changes color. And so when blood comes out of your body, there's oxygen in the air, and that oxygen, the hemoglobin will just grab onto oxygen and it'll turn bright red. So that's why whenever you see blood, whenever you're bleeding, you don't see blue blood. You never do, because the air is immediately going to, or the hemoglobin is immediately going to grab the oxygen out of the air and turn bright red. But while it's in your veins and all the oxygen is pulled out of it, it's blue.
Hmm. Okay. Anonymous said, I started a 3-day fast with glucose reading of 334. I'm now on day 6 and reading is 169. Any reason why my level is dropping so slowly?
Oh, insulin is high, so you have insulin resistance. And the insulin prevents you from using fat for energy. And so your liver starts making sugar out of protein. So it's turning the protein into sugar. So it's okay. Just give it time. And, if you're fasting for a few days, you have to um, most people within 2 days have used up their glycogen, and they're starting to use down all of the stored glucose in their cells. And so then the insulin will drop down at that point, and then you'll start burning fat, and then your ketosis will kick in. And it's good to measure that. That's what I do. You get the dipstick. You can get the finger stick. That's okay. It's more accurate. But the dipstick's just fine. It tells you if you're making ketones. It's a yes or no question. Am I making a bunch of ketones or not?
Yeah. Okay, our time is up. Thank you so much, Dr. Saunders.
That
We
was
appreciate
fast.
you. It was fast. We're gonna continue next week. Bring your questions right away. We're excited to chat with you guys. And thank you both for being here.